So it's the voice of wisdom. It's the universal language. And that's why you support arts. And that's why you're not playing. I talked about the plumber first. Nobody donates $1 million to a plumber, but they donate $1 million to a museum, and they don't know why. And see, this is our job. So, because I talked to a person that made a museum for $80 million, and I said, why did you do that? He couldn't tell me. He said, oh, this was such a great period. I need to promote that period. Like very system. I mean, the couple couldn't know. They acted unconsciously, but they didn't know why they got so much money for art versus they gave money to the plumbers union. I don't want to put plumbers down, but I'm saying we totally unconsciously interact with something that is so inherent in us, which is art.
This is Unconditioning, Discovering the Voice Within, with Whitney Ann Jenkins. Hello, and welcome to the 47th episode of Unconditioning, Discovering the Voice Within, where I bring on guests and we talk about the inner authentic voice and the challenges and the rewards that come from following it. This week I have with me Michaell Magrutsche. Michaell is an Austrian-Californian multimedia artist, an educator, author of 5 art-related books. He's a podcaster, coach, creative advisor, and former Newport Beach Arts Commissioner. He's fluent in German and English. He's an outside-the-box thinker, and he's discovered patterns within art that foster creative communication and identify art values outside any systems, which always raise our human potential. So when I first began this podcast, I started off with people that I personally knew. And as my podcast expands and grows, I've been able to encounter people that I don't really know and be able to get to know them on the podcast. And every once in a while, though all of my guests have been really great, I find people who are extremely resonant and in alignment with my own experiences and my own interests. And I know that this is just an introduction for us to foster a relationship and a collaboration for future endeavors. And this interview with Michaell is one of those examples. Michaell is energetic, he's eccentric, and he's forward-thinking. And I'm so excited to share this conversation with you because I found it very thought-provoking with a lot of little nuggets of wisdom inside. So, without further ado, here is my conversation with Michaell Magrutsche.
Let's dive right in because I'm neurodiverse, I'm dyslexic and dysgraphic. So if I prepare, I'm totally flunk. I start stuttering.
Okay, perfect. Well, this is going to be a really organic conversation anyway. And
Yeah.
You are an artist and you also help people to find their creative voice and guide them.
Yeah.
So in order for you to be able to help guide other people, there had to be some things that you had to encounter along the way yourself in order to be able to get there. So one of the first things that I like to ask is, when was the first time that you realized that you had this creative voice of your own? And it was specifically your own and not really influenced by anyone else, but it was your authentic voice and you could recognize that.
I think I recognized that when I was, when I grew up, I was a sick child and then I couldn't handle school. So I was always forced to find my voice. I have to force to find my essence because I couldn't navigate systems where you get conditioned, right?
Right.
Because I was sick. So my brothers and sisters were healthy. So I was sick. So I always was the exception. I didn't fit in. And then in school, I was dyslexic and neurodiverse and dysgraphic, and I couldn't understand it. I wasn't a rebel. I wasn't a disruptor. I just couldn't understand it. So art for me was always the survival. So I started with music, like we all do when we're young. to feel good, to get rid of our anxiety, music, paintings, all this stuff, everything creative was a turn on. I was not a sports lover or something, because obviously I was sick and stuff.
Right.
So what happens was, when I was 30, and we are not conscious, and this is my whole, to look at the perspective and to become conscious. This was my whole, purpose. And because I dyslexically wrote my name.
Okay.
And so about 30, I found out, did my resume, and I said, I'm an artist on everything. I started with DJing. I did fashion show producer. I was advertising. I was in media. I was in television. And so I said, Jesus, everything I did is, so I don't need the system to tell me that I'm an artist. I am an artist. And then I found out, I started painting. And what I found in painting, and this is a very good question, I couldn't find it. And actually, at that time, I had a little money, but everything I looked at was 10 grand. So everything I liked was $10,000,
Okay.
so $10,000 was the stuff that I like. And by the way, that would be today not the case, because there's so much good art out there. So you can buy for it way cheaper. But like 30 years ago, it was that. And so I found out, and my best friend Franzl in Vienna told me, and I'm actually in Vienna. I'm born in Vienna, Austria. And then I moved here when I was 18 or 20. So what happened was, he said, hey, why don't you paint something yourself? And I started, because my uncle was a master painter at the Academy of Applied Arts in Vienna.
Okay.
And I started to paint something that I liked, with the colors I liked. Something very similar to this was behind me. And I didn't like it at all. My ego didn't allow me to like it. So everybody says, just sit with it and see if you start liking it. So after 2 months, my ego judgment, I hung it up, and my ego judgment subsided. And all of a sudden, I liked it. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where I was introduced to my own voice, because I saw before, through patterns that are quote unquote system defined as art. And by exposing myself, I discovered, I unveiled to see my own art, my own creation, my own voice.
Right.
And from then on, I got crazy. I started painting. I mean, on Instagram, I have about over 1,000 paintings,
Oh, wow. Yeah. So it sounds like you were able to appreciate your own voice.
Yeah. And I couldn't before. And I think a lot of people are blind to that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of people, even when it comes to like hearing themselves in audio playing back, they don't like their own voice.
Yeah.
So there's something to be said about finding a way to accept your own voice, because acceptance is essential in moving forward. And
to find self. And see, that's why you see already what a superpower art is. Because what I'm coaching now people, I say, if you think you screwed up a song, a painting, anything, put it away. And then you look with fresh eyes in a month, in a week, in a year, and pull it out. If you think, let's say I paint a painting and I think I screwed it up. I did too much, often you go too long and you add too much. And I was thinking, oh my God, And so I say today, if that happens, put it away, do something else, and then look at it in a week, 2 weeks, a month, a year, pull it out. And what I found now out by coaching this and having people telling me their feedback is there's two things that happen. Either you pull it out and you say, oh my God, this is good, not so bad, that's perfect. I wasn't seeing it. Perspective is everything. Perspective is everything. I didn't see it from that point, Or you say, God, I know what it needs. It needs that red angle. It needs that thing. And you put it on and it's perfect. Mm-hmm. So it's never oh my God, after 2 minutes, no, that was a crappy painting. I need to discard that. I need to paint over it, or I need to do another song. This song is shabby.
Yeah.
And you have that discovery with all the people. Like they think they have a bad song, and all of a sudden that song comes to the number one because they don't see it, So in time and what patterns do, because most good songs take 20 minutes, 30 minutes to make. So when you are in flow in time space, to be open to the non-physical to the physical, but basically what artists do is they don't have a purpose. They start a conversation with the non-physical, and they bring that non-physical into the physical form. And actually what the art product is, that's what our art world judges, is that conversation. So conversation of a song, conversation of a painting, conversation of a poem, conversation of a movie. And that's why people resonate with some songs tremendously, or movies or paintings, because they feel that inclusion that art always furthers and nurtures. And they feel, I'm part of this. I have that muscle, but they're unconscious still about their muscle, but I don't know why they pay $100 grand for a painting or a song when Elton John, they invite Elton John or something to play for them for $1 million. Why do they do that? Why not? For $1 million, they can do a great party. They don't need to get Elton John there, but because it means so much for them, because it means that artists reflect so much of what their own muscle. Mm-hmm. And that's why, and that's why things like that happen, because it is really a mystical. Mystical is only because we are not we haven't gotten a science around that, and I changed that basically.
Yeah, so creating for creation's sake rather than for the purpose of some kind of outcome or expectation.
An iPhone, instead of an iPhone or a car or something.
Right. So I'm curious because you were in Vienna and now you're in Newport. So I'm curious as to the differences of how art is accepted in Vienna versus the United States and California, and your experience there.
Yeah. So I think it's not as crass anymore, the difference, because, we are one world with the internet and everything. So whatever happens there happens here. What I think is they have a stronger local art. So there is, there would be a Laguna Beach art, which isn't anymore, but there would be a Vienna art, or art or district or something. I think that's still there. But I think what happened, and I tell you a story, I had the director of the Academy of Applied Arts at a Sunday dinner at our house. And I was 15 years old, and I was young and DJing and art was the greatest thing because school was not, So, and I loved Warhol, I loved Picasso, loud like I am, that's reflecting in that thing. So, and the director of applied arts and my uncle, that is the, the master teacher on the Academy of said both, and a lot of people, like doctors and whatever said, agreed with that. And I was defending Warhol and Picasso because they said, okay, Warhol couldn't be an artist because an artist doesn't make photos and paint on them. And the second was Picasso couldn't be an artist because he did over 30, now over 30,000 paintings. No artist can be an artist that does that many. So there is a very harsh system judgment of what art is in the system. Obviously, it's not for humanity, and it's not what the people like. It's just in the system of we need to protect that craft. That and it is a craft basically. In most schools, you learn how to do landscapes and portraits, and you hear history that is old. Even though you can type in, you can type everything into Google now, And when people actually get, and I'm working also on arts education, on a new arts education. So what happens today is when actually MFA or BFA, you come out with that degree, and for whatever chance you get a gallery to like your stuff, or you get a company that likes your song, what happens is that they don't know what to do with it. So when you don't even know what an inventory list is, and you don't learn that. So you learn a skill that you can't use because nobody sat there and defined art of what art is. So I started to define art. In my last book, I saw the two things. I saw, okay, what is the art world? And I had three things. What is the art world? And why are 97% of artists worldwide, not in America, worldwide, on the poverty level? Why do they have to exist on that? And I found out that was because we never defined ourselves. Over generations, we defined it. The king ordered Mozart to play and says, you can live in my castle while you play, and they feed you, and then you just play, and we give you a little stipend. The same is Michelangelo with the church. So neither systems, the church or politics or rich people, know how to define art, nor artists. So it's not the fault of the Duke or whatever. We just never defined it. We never came in that position. Cave paintings were made by that person that could actually draw. There wasn't a money issue. So the person that could draw and had fun with it just did the cave painting. So that was one thing. And then how we look at art was all system defined, meaning the history, the people that wrote the history. And that's why you don't have abstract art before Van Gogh or something, like after Van Gogh, a little bit of abstract art came, because I think they burned the art and the artists because they thought the person were possessed by the devil. And that's why there is no abstract art from early, So we have no definition other than the product and whatever one is willing to pay for that.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the big downfall. We need to say, when you go to a plumber, I say always that example because it's so easy to understand. He says, what am I getting for $5,000? And he says, I'm getting you a new bathtub, I get you a newer shower, that's my labor, and that's my material. When you go to an artist, what does he say? Oh, I got a price in the museum, I was hanging in this, and my last painting was this. Nobody cares. You cannot define it. But when you define it and says, oh, and educate people, and I talk to other artists today, and they said all the same things. Art has to open up, revamp, and we have to start defining what we do. Yes. So we can actually, so it's not about, oh, I used that material. That's secondary. We need to say what I say, like things like that. It's like you're buying with art, you're buying a conversation with the unconscious. You're buying the artist and how he brings that unconscious into the conscious. And then just contemplate on that. If you are drawn to a painting, even if it's a sunflower, there is a communication on. See if you see that communication of the and what did you think while putting it in this color? What did you think? I mean, look at plein air. Plein air is a perfect example. Plein air is all plein air. It's all nature, copy of nature. But when you off the colors in plein air, why are they selling higher? Because it's a fresh look at plein air. If I do a forest in purple and pink and in this, then I get freshness. That is, my conversation is included. It's not a copy. It's my conversation. If like Van Gogh, his way, people were outraged by his paintings because they were like modernists. They were outraged by something not being a photo, like a photo. And they said, that's not art. Art is when you have super skills and you can copy exactly what you can do. Yeah. And that's why I'm saying voice is, I'm thankful that you work on that thing, and I work too, and that the voice is so important because you are one of one. Nobody has your DNA.
Absolutely.
And and this is the same thing. Why not everybody falls in love with you? That would be sad if everybody falls in love with you. Everybody finds their partner, and so you gotta express your uniqueness.
Yeah, and also it sounds like we also as artists need to find a way to interweave the value of an artist into the systems and society,
Exactly.
so that we can creatively change the way that the world works.
Exactly.
Yeah, and so I'm curious if you have any ideas of how to do that.
It's a conscious. It's not a step. It's not efforting. It's not work. It's a conscious making conscious. If you think, first of all, define art. Art versus creativity. Creativity you use to create an iPhone, a shoe, whatever, a car. We talked about this. Art is for art's sake, which means artists are valuable because they have an interaction with the non-physical. So it's saying the same thing like in nature. It's the same thing with nature. Nature has no waste. It is totally sustainable, self-sustainable. It doesn't need anything. And still, we think we know it better than nature. And art is the same thing in the creation. It has so much power. The deeper I dive into art, the more I understand life and humanity, how humanity is supposed to be inclusive. And that's why I felt always, I said, how can artists not make money when they basically live a humane, they're the stewards of humanity. Art is because in art, it's like, you have a lead, but the lead is not above. The theater piece, the music piece still has to work. It cannot be, there's Elon Musk, and then long nothing, and then there's his company. That's in art, it doesn't matter if you have Luigi Pavarotti in singing, it still has to be that opera, that piece has to work as a whole. And there's all races, all genders, everything, all sexualities included in that, because it's about the product, it's not about the single people. So
and when you have artists who are trying to survive and then are creating based on corporations or people who pay them, then that also skews their own voices, right? And takes away
absolutely wonderful
from their own creation time. So I think about this often, and how I can contribute into changing this narrative as well.
Don't go in narrative. Narrative is the story. Stay human. Story. Not narrative is story for systems to manipulate, and therefore narratives are never correct. They're always for manipulation. More money. I tell that narrative, then I get that money. That's just tell your story, like I do and you do. I mean, just let's tell our stories, because that's the power. That is the power. It's like art. It's like nature. It's a humane tool, is storytelling. That's why the dialogue is the second superpower. Art, creativity, one. Second is storytelling and dialogue. And the third is adaptability. Because without our adaptability, systems never could work. Never.
Right. Yeah. And as a humanity, we consume art as a way of understanding the world through storytelling.
Yes.
And it's not appreciated. And that's how we learn.
But it's not knowing. It's people are unconscious about that. And it's and artists always say, no, I have it untitled. I'm so against untitled, because it's like, help the person understand. That's your education. If by you giving it a name, you help them understand what you're expressing. I mean, and language, art is the universal language anyway, and everybody forgets that very conveniently too. I mean, if you do a little drawing, everybody on this planet understands that drawing.
Absolutely,
unless it is, especially. So it's the voice of wisdom. It's the universal language. And that's why you support arts. And that's why you're not playing. I talked about the plumber first. nobody donates $1 million to a plumber's union, but they donate $1 million to a museum, and they don't know why. And see, this is our job. He said, because I talked to a person that made a museum for $18 million, and I said, why did you do that? He couldn't tell me. He said, oh, this was such a great period. I need to promote that period. Like very system. I mean, the couple couldn't know. They acted unconsciously, but they didn't know why they got so much money for art versus they gave money to the plumbers union. I don't want to put plumbers down, but I'm saying we totally unconsciously interact with something that is so inherent in us, which is art. It's the most objective storyteller ever. That's not written by the victor. So if you want to know a time of in Romans or whatever, just look at the artwork. It reveals so much.
Yeah.
And I didn't invent anything of what I've now, I think on my podcast, my podcast is 1 second is 30 seconds, 20 seconds. It's just a quote and a question. So to pivot the consciousness to see, hey, look, there's something, art creation is so much more valuable in art than just the product. The product is the symptom. Mm-hmm. It's the icing on the cake. But look at what value, tremendous value for humanity, for our future generations, for our past generations. I mean, what holds humanity, the fabric of humanity together? Not our systems, because systems change all the time. Not our knowledge, that changes all the time. It's art and creativity.
I agree with you so much. And I think in this country specifically, art is often equated, or the value of it, with celebrity and fame.
Everything is. I mean, everything. If I'm a race car driver, it's about whatever I do, if I get to be a celebrity, but that's the market, that's the system. Again, that's why my new book that I'm writing is how to use your creativity to get systems better, or to get human potential better, because it's all about human potential. The system should actually make us safe and support us in finding the human potential. Find that we help, and art helps you tremendously. Look, I have no education, and I can talk about all that stuff,
Yeah, the process is so transformational in itself as an artist.
Absolutely,
and
absolutely,
a creative. Like I've experienced that myself as an actor and a musician. So like just to experience the process of it and not worry so much about the end results.
Product,
The end result of it is really kind of like an otherworldly, spectacular kind of feeling, right?
Yeah. And nobody can take that. People say, hey, you're not a doctor. You're not a system navigator. You're not anything. How can you be so self-confident? Art, like you too, right? It's like, we don't have it from the systems.
Right.
And the funny thing is, when you get an accolade like an Oscar or a Grammy, that's not it either. That's a system accolade. You think, oh, I'm justifying. That's why I say this is a very important point. I said, if you can look and milk your creation process, you will not feel like a starving artist. If you make everything dependent on your Oscar, on what it's going to get you, you will never be satisfied. And so many people I know that have Oscars, that have Grammys, they said it has no value. It's nice to have that accolade, but it's actually only here that to confirm that you connect with the audience, basically.
And the system.
And the system, exactly.
Yeah, so it comes to the point of intentionality and inspiration of your creation. What does creativity mean to you specifically?
It is a purpose. It's a difference between, art for art's sake. It's just creating. It's just starting a conversation with your, whatever comes. If you inspire me, if a color inspires me, if a sound, a rhythm inspires me, then I build on that. That's art. Creativity is, okay, now it's possibility. Number one, it's a tremendous possibility in a context. meaning create a competition to iPhone. Create a new sneaker that's not Nike. Be creative. Do something in a context.
So you're saying that
Do
inspiration.
a design, a graphic design.
Yeah. So inspiration is connected to art, is what you were saying.
Yeah. But you can be inspired also by other patterning in creativity. So if I create a new logo for you, I'm looking at your old logo and I look at you and we talk and get the voice and whatever. And then I get inspired and I try to sense your voice. Yeah, but you're physical already. So I have to look at all your patterns and sense your voice and then say, okay, this for you, I have this in mind. And then you say yes, no, and you guide me also in a different direction. So I can say I created this sneaker, and you say, no, I would like this, have this, and I was thinking instead of laces, we do something else, and we use another color pattern or whatever. So we hone it together, and that's creativity. And that's good. That's a tool. That's why we have that. And it's the same in a business. If you say, let's create a new business, you dive into that through that creative muscle that you inherently have in you. So every time I get really angry when business people say, I'm not an artist. Can you explain that to me? I'm a businessman. No, you're not. You wouldn't even call yourself a businessman if you weren't creative. You couldn't even conjure that word businessman out or whatever if you weren't creative. So, and by the way, I want to just say that we can add to this episode. I have a document for how to get 60 questions, how to find your creative voice.
Oh, okay.
So we can add that to our episode so that people can,
absolutely,
can wake up. We want to wake up. It's a consciousness thing,
Right. Absolutely. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So I think that's the only thing, Whitney, that the only thing that creativity is to use a skill, to use that creative muscle that you have. Like a marathon runner, I cannot run a marathon tomorrow, but I can try to get there. And the more I'm using that muscle, the sooner I can run a marathon. I need to, it's a skill. It's more a skill set and experience, wisdom too, because I explained it to you that I have to hone it. I have to hone.
Right. So we're talking now almost about flow and the flow state of having a skill so ingrained in you that you don't have to think about it. And then that creative voice can authentically flow through you without.
Flow is always being in time and space and time, because there was no flow before the 70s. You know that, right? Nobody talked good. They didn't talk about flow or any of the thing. Edgar Allan Poe didn't talk about flow. Nobody talked about flow. They started in the 70s to talk about flow, which is basically getting you out of time and space. The systems are so distorting humans. See, art brings you cannot be creative nor do art if you think, I have to pay those bills. I have to think about this person. I have to call this person. If you're in the process of creating, doesn't matter if you design a shoe or create a piece of art, it forces you to be in the moment, because you cannot get anything fresh or new if you're not in the moment. The moment gives you access to everything. And you need to get in that moment,
Yeah, and creativity, it seems, has kind of become a trendy word in the business world of everyone's trying to add creativity in the workplace and get to the top of creativity as we get ahead.
Creator.
So there's even
are you a creator? Are you a creator? Are you a creator?
Around that.
Are you a creator? Everybody's a creator. This is nothing special, Are you an influencer? Everybody's an influencer. There's no such thing. It's just systems take these words to make it chic, and then you're just, and the system navigators are all the betas are taking these words and spew it all day long. But it's it's like stay on the human story, not narrative, it's like in the system you do a narrative, but it's about humanity. Ultimately, system is always secondary because humans are so unique and limitless, we recognize bullshit.
Right.
And marketing is basically all system copy. It's a copy. It's never fresh.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just in with the AI. That it's just a copy. By the way, AI, I did one of those pictures, that made you pictures, those engines. And I put the name Hello in it. And you know what I got after 10 minutes? I got after 10 minutes, 9 pictures. 2 were cats and human mixed. And the other one were just cat. And I said, what the hell is that? Because of Hello Kitty. Hello Kitty has the algorithm, sees Hello as a part of Hello Kitty. And then logic, linear, very linear, puts together, okay, hello. It can't be hello to you. It is a very human, hello is a very human communication.
Yeah.
And it forced that into system talk. And that's, that shows you how limited AI is. There's so much between you and me, between what you and I talk, there's so much information flow. There's no computer big enough for that information flow. There is no AI, and it will never be.
Right. Yeah. There's something to be said about the energetic exchange between two people when they're talking that seems to not incorporate.
Yeah, that's why you have 4% on text and 36 in person, and probably 20 between you and me. But there's so many other things that you can't measure. So I think it's more than 20 between you and me, or 36. They say 36% communication you have when you're person to person. But I think it's more, but they have not created the measuring devices. It's like, you see infrared light and stuff, and there's people that see auras and whatever. We are just limitless. Humans, it's just, whenever the system changes, humans expand,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, so how have you, in all of the years that you've been in the art scene, how have you seen the systems change over the years, and how have they changed?
I've seen the system change they want to do, systems copy humans. They copy functions that humans do. Like a farmer does by hand, plows a field. We create a machine that the farmer doesn't have to do this by the team. Now we use AI for years now to art, and MIT has that for, I think, the last 5-6 years, invites all the critics, and the critics actually vote for AI, because the patterning that AI chooses is not only Picasso. AI, when you run a painting through, when you give a direction to a computer, it will pull all the famous paintings, the patterning. He will see pattern between Warhol and Van Gogh and Picasso. And it will see, this is the most famous. And it's just on a very linear, logical thing. And we recognize, we are not conscious. That's why I'm saying we are not conscious.
Mm-hmm.
We recognize those patterns, that what we call, quote unquote, art, what the system calls.
Right.
And obviously the critics are system people, because nobody would listen to a critic if they're not system people. So the system people look at that and they say, I, as a human, judge this as better than, I didn't know. They blindly get these new paintings, or, one not famous painting of Picasso, and then an AI.
Yeah.
And they choose AI all the time because it has more patterning. It's very logical. For humans, it's this very logic to decipher that. It's a reason why that's, but you're not buying for the masses. It's an expression of your essence. Voice is, voice with a capital V, is your expression of your essence. And everybody has a different essence. It's not an amalgamation of a mixture of what people like. That's, the one thing is, what people like is pleasure. It's selling them junk food. And the other one is authentic, soul, deep, rich, it's like a wine, It's like a good wine. It's just, wow. It's just,
Yeah.
you smell the earth, you smell all
Mhm.
that stuff. It just opens the world.
So recognizing all of these things,
Yeah,
and that the majority of humanity is looking at things through a filter that they've been trained to
exactly.
know is good or not
Awesome.
as far as art
Yeah.
consumption. How?
Every consumption, woman, man, what was sexuality, everything is
Yes.
system defined. I
Yes.
mean, gender, that we
Absolutely.
divided genders
Yes.
into genders is a system, because the system couldn't handle woman and man together. It couldn't handle humanity. Then we're, oh my God, now we have races. And now they do it with sexuality. And that's where they fail, because in sexuality that you see the fluidity of us.
Right.
We are
Right.
not just male human
Mhm.
sexuality. We are not female. It's not that easy.
Yeah. Yeah. So focusing on art specifically though,
Yeah.
because it all is intertwined because art is a reflection of
Of
humanity
everything.
and
Yeah.
vice versa, right?
Yeah.
So, um, how can we shift this filter to become more conscious so that people are more aware of what they're consuming?
I'm trying to get all the artists to understand. And one of the artists, I mean, I did 75 podcasts in the last 5 months all over the world.
Hmm.
So I try to get the artists first conscious and see them. So then hopefully they go and see my podcast or what I write, my quotes. They don't need to read the books, because I know,
Yeah.
and if they're in my book is $3 on Kindle, and you can have it read to you. I know no artists are the most neurodiverse people, so they can just listen to it if they want. But what I'm doing is, it's getting artists need to know it first, because it's our
Right.
survival,
Hmm.
our survival. So we need to know it and be aware of it, because everything I tell you, you feel anyway. I've
Right.
never gotten pushback. That's not true. Because I'm
Yeah.
looking at it from a humane level,
Hmm.
and not from I know better. I haven't found anything. My thing, my talent, my ability is to unveil what's already here and give you a different perspective. And that's what my
Yeah.
power
Yeah.
is. That's
Yeah.
one of my voices.
Mhm.
So when I have
Yeah.
the artists, then they can talk, and then there will be a recognition of that value, because we see now
Yeah.
we can't replace the human for
Hmm.
certain things. We can tasks, we can plow the fields, whatever, but we cannot replace the human. We can't.
Right.
And what are we going to do? My question is also this, and I'm posing that out there. What are we good doing if AI and everything, all our technology, which is great, uh, does all our physical skills, our repetitive skills? What is humanity doing then? How do we increase our human potential? And to have this conversation, I think we need to talk about art and creativity, because we could do your area, my area. We say, how can we have a better experience?
Yeah.
And mostly better experiences are art related, because what is heaven on earth? A wonderful song. Nothing is getting you heaven on earth, like a song, a painting, a play, where you say, oh my God, I was in a completely other world.
Right. Yeah.
And then I can choose, then I will choose the right way, what I want to go anyway. And I think art is the future tool, the tool to be in a humane futures for our kids, for our ancestors, for everything.
Yeah. It seems like as AI grows, it could be an anchor to keep us within our
It
humanity.
is an anchor right now. What do you
Yeah.
think? What do you think that we are like this, or that we are not totally already robots? And I always say, we don't need to be afraid of robots. We need to be, because of our third superpower, adaptability, we need to be careful that we don't turn into robots by just being system adapt so much. And this
Yeah.
is my new book, to make systems human adapt. And we can use our creativity to make systems human adapt. Because why are we creating a tribe? Why are
Yeah.
we creating a family? To be safe and secure. And now systems have pivoted and make us more anxious, more anxiety, more ADHD, more dyslexia, more all this stuff.
Yeah.
So art is a superpower. It is when you look at art and study art like I do, like I look at it, your world is going to change in front of your eyes and you don't even know it, you know?
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, that's exciting. I'm
Oh,
really
it's so
interested.
exciting. Why do you think I'm so excited?
Yeah.
I mean, it's super exciting, you know, but you have to just look right. And systems say you got to look at this way, you know, you got to copy other people's opinions. No, you don't. And all that I say is just look at it and have your own opinion about art, because I know that you're going to find more stuff on how you followed up with questions, that you find other angles to look at the creative voice. And that's the human potential. And this is a perfect example how we expand our human potential versus make our system survive. Because that's life force wasted versus human potential is life force invested in our potential for future generation.
Do you feel that the systems want us to not have that potential rise up?
Very careful about systems, because it's on the other side of the system that sits humans. Basically, what we're doing and not conscious about is the mother that has two kids. And I always say Iris, the best example, the Texas, right?
Yeah.
So there's a mother that has to feed three kids that is divorced. There's a guy that has no money and so he uses his creative muscle to create for the new politics, for the new person that got voted in, and creates a tax system for them as a new way of collecting taxes. What does the other system do? It finds new ways of navigating around those taxes. Yeah. So basically, both waste their life force. Yeah. To create it and to navigate it. We do that in law. We do that in a lot of things. Common sense doesn't work anymore. Yeah. And what we have to do is making conscious that systems are not the bad things. We're just using it as a dusty mirror that people can hide behind them, as well as using them, like in the war of Ukraine and Russia, using it to manipulate human beings and kill 80,000 human souls for a system that humans created. Yeah. I mean, without humans, there wouldn't be Russia and Ukraine, but Russia and Ukraine killing 80,000 soldiers in 5 months because of the system. Right. And so because somebody hides, or two people hide behind the system to manipulate other things. It's a great, so what this is a double-sided mirror. That a false mirror, a false mirror, like you're going into a carnival, right? It just gives you a false representation of what it is. And these people that use system or hide behind systems are disturbed humans. Yeah. So it's not, and we project and say, oh, that horrible tax system or the horrible government or a horrible thing. We need to be conscious. This is human against human, and we have extinguished ourselves, I think, 6 or 7 times already in the various cultures, and that's why we can't do this anymore. Okay, we need to be conscious.
So are you saying to find the compassion behind the systems and the humanity within the system?
No, you don't need to be compassionate. Just know it. It's a fact that behind systems are humans, and they're creative, and they're as creative as you, and they're limitless. So I'm slapping you in the face and you kick me in the knee. Then I pull your hair and you say, I'm going to throw this at you. And it's going to go on till you're dead. Right. So why? And it's just through systems. And there's a wonderful video on Instagram where 2 dogs through a glass door, they almost eat each other up. I mean, you think if they get together, it's going to be, they open the glass door and like nothing happened. And that's how I see it's the best metaphor that I ever saw for systems. It's through systems. I'm right. I'm Republican. You are Democrat. Oh, screw you. And then when you come to the person, it's a different story. See, through system, it's easy fighting. Through system, it's easier to say, kill that guy. Through system, it's very, so that's why I think we need to be aware and why we even created a tribe. We created a tribe that you don't have to feed that kid all day, 24 hours. We created a tribe that your grandmother or an elder could take care of your kid for a second so you can go in the woods and pluck berries or play with your friends or something. To give us safety and security, that's why we created systems. And art reflects that in the art reflects that in a microcosm. The art community, we have one language, right? We have, I mean, look at what we already have. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. We just take art as a sample, a microcosm of the world.
Yeah, and to kind of go a little like deeper.
Go deep, go deep.
As an artist, in my opinion,
yeah,
in order to be able to access your creative, authentic voice with its fullest potential, you must feel safe.
No kidding. Yeah. And it pushes you to create. I mean, what systems didn't tell us, they said, you know, I think I said it before. I said, life should be sunny. If it's not sunny every day, we sell you a pill, we sell you a face job, we sell you a Ferrari, right? Even if you buy all those and you're not happy, what does the system say then? There must be inherently something wrong with you. And that's the maximum of shame. Yeah. And this is where the distortion happens, because you think the self-shame that you put on that top of that shame, on that, you know, because your DNA, on the DNA side, you are driven to be a herd animal, right? So it's not your choice. You are driven to be a herd animal. And then the herd says, there is inherently something wrong with you. It's self-destruction. I had so much, I mean, that was one of my, and the other side of shame is self-acceptance, right? So that was a master thing on me, the shame that I had to overcome and to force me out. And I wish, and living is challenging.
Yeah.
And nobody tells you that either. It is, as a living being, you're challenged all the time. You don't have to sacrifice yourself. You don't have to submit yourself, but you will be challenged. If you're rich or if you're poor, think about back in your life. When you ever have not been challenged? Since you're a baby, you have been challenged. And that's a part of life. Yeah. But art can make that challenge. You know, I'd rather have a challenge, a creative challenge, than have a survival challenge. You know?
Yeah, yeah. And then you add in the mental health of artists.
Oh, absolutely. The mental health comes 90%, more than 90% from systems.
Yeah.
And
trying to fit into the system.
And the shame that if you have a deficiency like me, you think I chose to have dyslexia? I think I chose to be sick and do you think I shouldn't exist? I have nothing to offer. And I'm saying, according to system, I have nothing to offer. I wasn't system applicable. I wasn't system navigator. Why should I exist? And that shame you have to release. But then you get this, you know. Huh?
Yeah.
Because I'm a happy camper. I have no money, but I'm a happy camper. I'm very happy. And a lot of rich people and wealthy people or successful people don't have that.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. The system also has presented this narrative. And I think there's a romanticism to it a little bit too, of the starving artist.
Yeah, we make it. No, it's our creativity that made it. Our creativity said, okay, if I can join it, I'm going to be infamous. You know, if I can't be famous, I'm infamous. And that's what it is. I think it is an adaptation. The shame is so deep and the valuelessness, because you feel the genius that what happened. You feel the magic in creation, right?
Yeah.
And then the herd says, screw you. You're not an artist. Your creation isn't worth anything. When you say, oh, how much do you want for this painting? $50. What about I give you 20? Every artist tells me that. They go already so low because they need to survive. And that's shame. That is system shame. That's meaning, you know, the guy that does a repetitive ask makes that much in a supermarket, but you hassle me down to give me almost nothing. You have no appreciation. And that's by not understanding what art is.
Yeah.
Because when I talk to somebody about art, there is no discussion about price. It's actually, art shouldn't cost anything. It should be an honoring. If you like the painting behind me, you honor me by whatever it is. And I accept that because because I know you understand what it is. It shouldn't be, because it's priceless. Right. It's really priceless. It's this simple painting is an interaction and came out of an interaction with the non-physical. Yeah, I toned the colors and the shapes, everything. So till it resonated, So there's work behind it. It doesn't matter how simple it is. And especially when minimal art is also revealing the interaction between space, right? Negative space and the image. It actually is a high minimal art is a very high form of art, because it reveals how important space is, how important the interplay is, how important the balance is. It reveals a completely different level of art than a copy that you then in your mind melt with the real landscape, with the real, So it shows you the function of space and time and the image, and how important that balance is, and to achieve a balance. See, nobody explains minimal art like that. Nobody. I've never heard anybody. But I dove in. Yeah. I mean, and I wrote all this stuff in my book.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, I look forward.
The Smart of Art. That's why it's called The Smart of Art.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you have a nonprofit, I believe, also.
No, I got grants for creating an alternative art education, but I don't have it. I don't have a nonprofit. I ask people if they like what I do to support it, but it's an honoring, it's an honoring system. The nonprofit is another system. Why do I need to create another system? And by the way, it's so sad that artists, that grants and money is primarily this is what changed also about grants. In the old days, you could get a grant as an artist. Now you can't. You have to have your own nonprofit, and other nonprofits give your nonprofit money. It's almost no artist gets supported, And if you're very good with the nonprofit, they might select you. But I know in Laguna Beach, the fund that comes in is giving funds out to artist nonprofits, to cultural nonprofits. It doesn't get to the single.
Yeah. As opposed to the individual. Yeah.
Yes, because the individual is the essence of the creation.
Yeah, and the key to any kind of transformation.
Exactly.
The ripple effect, yeah.
Yeah. So but they have tax advantages, and there's advantages for the system versus, see, if the system doesn't get advantages, the artists would still be supported, but they're not, because it's not they have more advantage if they give it to a cultural nonprofit than to an artist.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, we'll just have to learn to work the system, I guess.
No, we have to change system to be human adaptive, for artists adaptive, and not humans being system adaptive. Because what should I do? I'm dyslexic. I can't even read the stuff. I don't even understand an agreement change. Yeah. So what I can sign everything, but I don't understand it. And I tell everybody that lets me sign the fine print, I said, that I have no clue what this says, And most people that are not neurodiverse have the same problem. I'm just an extreme,
Yeah.
And this is manipulation. System manipulation, where another guy, smartass, on the other side of system thinks, okay, I make the fine print so small, I make the words so complicated that nobody understands it, so people would just accept it. So what are we doing? Why are we wasting all that energy? Right?
I don't know. You tell me.
Yeah, but that's why I'm telling, because we need to wake up. I'm not
Well,
saying be revolution, because revolution is the same thing. If you revolute against systems, you're doing the same thing that systems do.
yeah, it's gotta be an
Consciousness. Yeah.
inner work, individual change,
Yeah.
that will, and I guess the only thing we can do is to bring awareness to it as we're doing now.
Which is the greatest thing, because if I say to you, I have $1 million for you, you have to make a choice. I make you aware. There's $1 million for you, Whitney Ann. Here you have $1 million. You can say, I don't want it. You can do whatever you do, but because you're conscious that this is a possibility, you have to act.
Yeah.
And that's why being conscious is such a superpower too. Mm-hmm. And systematic, that consciousness is knowledge. So when you know that a market is behaving like this or that, you can do something now that nobody knows. And that's why they say knowledge is power. It's not power. It's only power in the system, because you're manipulating what you know and nobody else knows. So it's basically cheating. It's cheating humanity.
I agree.
I love you, Whitney, and I love how you're taking this all in. I like
it. You're not saying anything I don't agree with, so I'm trying to find an angle.
Find an angle.
Yeah. So I'm actually getting my master's in psychology, focusing specifically on creativity and studying artists in particular, because I feel like there's a great need for it. So,
oh my God, look at what it offers.
Yeah.
Just get my book for $3. Get it. It's $3 on Kindle and have it read to you. Your lights go on all over.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And about the idiocy that's happening. See, the idiocy that's, like, for example, that system, the nonprofits, for example, they require things and they don't tell you a creative guideline. So, for example, it's just one system. Systems say, okay, we want to do a new redecorate this thing, whatever that thing is, or we want to put a statue there. And there's no requirements. And what happens is there's so many artists, they make models, they do all this energy in it. And then the jury says, oh, it's not what we think. You were too lazy to define what you want, right? Well, you were too lazy, and you just made a big announcement. We are gonna give you $50,000 to make that sculpture, and all the artists, they're hungry. They want to express themselves. They make models, and then the jury of people that are not even artists decides, that's not what we wanted. We want it different. I said, then you need to learn to express what you want. Yeah. Do you want that human? I mean, that's like saying on the beach, I want animals. You can't compete with dolphins and stuff in nature. I can look down on the beach and see sea animals and whatever. Why would I need an artist copy that? That's never the works. That is a complete waste of energy. Yeah. There should be an abstract painting or a conditioned way to say this is a human expression. Mm-hmm. Not just a copy of the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah. I just associated the word nonprofit also along with the connection of the artists there too. So you're also like taking the connotation of that word nonprofit.
Yeah.
And associating it with artists, which is not valuing them in any way.
Absolutely. You're such a genius. That is a genius observation.
Oh, well, thank you.
No, it is. You're a gem. And you will do really good. You will do really well. I think you're in, baby. You are in. Oh, when you get your degree, you are in. Yeah. We can pivot. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. We're gonna continue our conversation.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's why I find that so good with the podcast, because you meet all these people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, so do you have anything else that you would like to discuss or mention about what you do, or a message you would like to send the world before we wrap up?
I think what comes is value. Mm-hmm. I think because artists have such a heart with value. And I just learned, because of the new car the new car things, that electric car, and the government wants to support it. The cash that is available on a yearly basis, people make, it's only 2% of Americans make more than 300,000, including all the millionaires you're here, and only 2% make more than 300,000. I know it's a lot for an artist, 300,000, but 300,000 is only 2% of all the things. So meaning there's no cash. When you pay me $10, right? 4 people make money on that. You pay me with a credit card, the sliding thing, everybody makes money on that. It's so exhausted. 8 people own 40% of this planet. 50% of the workforce in the world may have to live with $5.50 a day. And you need to put that in, and so all of a sudden, the 97% of artists, at least they do what they want to do, doesn't look that bad. And I think we need to find a humane ethic, change the money system that is a static system and use all our creativity to make that human adaptive, because the money is a static system, and art and humans are organic. We need to sleep. We are not 24/7. We need to sleep. We have seasons, we have periods, we have different things, biorhythms, and we have good harvests and bad harvests. And the static thing of it more needs to be more and better and greater. We have to rethink, recreate of how we value human life force, how we value our life force in what we contributing to the human fabric. I think that is a major point. And that's actually why we talked, right? I mean,
Also, not to mention the probably so many people who've given up on their art to take a job that they hate, so that they can really survive, right?
Yeah.
So we're missing out on the creativity of so many people.
Yeah. And we say, oh, the system creativity is more important than your own voice. Your voice is worth nothing.
Right.
Make it look like a Tesla. Make it look like this. Make it, copy because,
However, with the invention of social media, and everyone having their own channel, everyone appears to have their own voice, or appears to think that they're able to have their own voice within these.
They think, but that's a system thing too. Be mindful. It's system. Be mindful is a system. Meditate is a system. Be unique. You is a system, and then you are copying all these patterns to be uniquely you, and which actually defeats the thing of being uniquely you. How can I be uniquely me? I'm gonna put on green clothes and purple hat or glasses that I see from somebody else, which defeats totally. What is the reflection of your essence? And this is the document we include in this episode, that people can really get how you transform your essence into some physical expression.
Okay, I love that. Okay, so I ask one last question usually to wrap up, and that is, we're gonna bring marketing into this for a second, because you have a message and it's important. If your inner authentic creative voice had a billboard, what would it say to the world?
I love this. It's a great question. Limitless, one word or 3 words or 2 words?
I mean, whatever you can imagine could be on a billboard.
Limitless human power.
Okay, that works.
If that works, it works for me.
Yeah, so if people would like to find you on the interwebs in that system.
MichaellM.com, Michael with 2 L's, MichaellM.com, and then you can call me, talk to me, contribute to me, see my music, paintings, everything, all my socials.
Okay.
And if you're interested in that, I would highly recommend every creative just get the free podcast and just look. It takes you an hour to go over 100 quotes, but they're deep. They're deep, these quotes. But you will get a sense how valuable a creation is, and you will know all these things because it resonates in you. Like in you, you will know these things, but nobody has given them words.
Yeah.
And I've given them words. They're not like, I don't use a thing from somebody else, you know.
Okay.
All my stuff is original me.
Excellent. I'm going to add all of that into the show notes so it's
Awesome.
able to be clicked on very easily.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for this conversation. I had
Thank you.
a surprisingly great time.
Yeah, and Whitney Ann, thank you for the canvas you gave me, the blank canvas, so I could paint a little.
Yeah.
It takes always two. Space is Space is more valuable than what you create on it. Without space, you can't create.
Yep, that's so true.
Awesome, huh? Awesome.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining me this week. If you're listening and you like what you hear, please consider subscribing and rating this podcast, as it really helps get this podcast out to other people who might be interested in hearing it but don't know about it yet. And also, if you'd like to contact me or reach me, you can reach me at unconditioningpodcast@gmail.com or unconditioningpodcast on Instagram. Thank you so much, and until next time, stay tuned in to you.